The presenting sponsor of Moontower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and welcome to SWOONTOWER Soccer. I'm Mike Cragnola.
And I'm Steph Cragnola.
And we are all about the boys.
Today, we have got a few little notes for you, recapping last week's match against Portland. And then we have a really great interview with Matt Pollard from Colorado Rapids, BurgundyWave, and Holding the Highline podcast to preview this week's matchup with the Colorado Rapids.
Yeah, so because it's an away match, right, we don't have our match, Scott. We kind of have a fit check this week.
Yeah.
We have very few match moods and pitch personalities because it's hard on TV. There were no goals, so we don't have Selly ratings. But I do have an adjustment to make on last week's.
I feel like this preview is longer than the time we're going to actually take talking about the things.
Well, so we may as well go into the goal Selly here now,
Sure.
the Selly rating, because it was brought to our attention by friend of the show and avid listener and fantastic, wonderful human and photographer extraordinaire, Katie Ensign, that I did Osman Bukhari dirty.
Yeah.
And she had the photographic evidence to prove it. It wasn't a lack of technique. It wasn't a lack of speed. The ground was too wet.
Yep.
It was too mushy.
Little chunks of grass flying from the front of his knees. He had no chance.
Yeah, he was going fast. He was going down. He was doing it right. And the ground did him dirty.
Yeah. Apologize properly by giving him a better score.
Osman Bukhari, I'm so sorry. Here's a 7.5 for you.
Austin FC2 dropped some new kits today.
Yeah, what did you think of them?
I love them. I think they're really clean and they're interesting to look at.
Do you like them better than the first team kit?
I don't think so. And definitely not the white one, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so for folks who haven't seen them, they are black with green stripes and then white with green stripes, but there's like a little bit of gradient action at the top there.
It almost looks like an Othello board, or like the boards that are black on the back and have like red and the like. Is it Othello or is it what's the other one with the stones?
Backgammon?
Oh, backgammon, yeah.
Sure, I can see that. I think last year's were closer to backgammon than this year's.
Okay.
And this year reminds me more of like when like the volume peaks on like a live soundboard.
Ah.
You know? And I
Yeah.
wonder if that's the inspiration, like
Maybe.
Austin live music kind of vibe.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they're too plain for a first team kit, but they are much cooler than last year's second team kits for sure.
Okay.
So I'm happy with them. I'm not rushing out to demand I get one.
Well, good thing, because you can't.
I know.
All right, we've got one match mood from our match against Portland, and honestly, it is the most important thing to talk about from that game, second to us wishing Julio a speedy recovery.
Yes.
There was a substitution at the 62nd minute. Do you want to talk about it, Mike?
Yeah, so we're excited because we see Mirto Izuni is getting ready to come in. And at the same time, we're a little sad because Hot Air O'Brien is coming off. But we're so thrilled because Uzuni and Hot Air give each other a pretty good, like, hey man, good game.
Yeah, normal hug.
Go kill it out there, hug.
And
but
then
there's like a secret little smooch.
there is. Uzuni, like, you can see kind of his neck crane around a little bit, and he does a tiny little neck kiss.
Yeah, you can zap rid of this if you want. We couldn't get the frame to like pause right enough to see his lips for sure, but
it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
You watch that head little like movement, it's there.
Yeah. And it was really nice. The nicest thing about that match.
Honestly.
Now we got some fun little social media standouts for the past week. Sweet Nicholas Dubersarski
Oh, he's such an angel.
He's such a sweet little angel.
Biru hands him a packet of something. And then Nico smells it and immediately is like,
oh, his face.
Just so surprised.
They were like smelling salts?
Yeah, they're just messing around with smelling salts.
Why do they have smelling salts?
Well, just to like get you amped up a little bit.
Is that like a thing people use?
I assume.
Should we get some?
Yeah, why not? Let's try it.
Okay. Y'all listeners, send us some smelling salts.
You don't have to do that.
If
we'll find our own.
You want some more energy on this podcast. You y'all know how much I love salt. You also know how much I love dogs. And at Saturday's match tomorrow, when you're hearing this, if you're hearing it when it comes out, we have sweet little Stella, who is back to Grace Q2 in her little wheelchair with her little tutu on. And Nico Estevez got to meet Stella.
It's so cute. I'm so glad the club is doing this with their mascots. At least this time. I think Stella is so adorable, and I'm so excited to see her face.
Yeah.
I also thought this video was adorable. Remember, listener, the idyllic, perfect, mic'd up episode of Dani Pereira in training?
Yeah, race car noises.
Yeah, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, that was a good time. It's too bad we don't get any of that anymore. But a training video dropped this week from Austin FC's official account with like the perfect amount of nostalgia for that video, I think.
Yeah. It was basically just a training video. Danny's not mic'd up or anything, but every time he comes close to the camera, he does this little
just his tiny little giggle. He's just so like clearly having a great time on the
so joyful
on the pitch. So really glad about that.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I also love getting our new star, Mirto Azuni, on Vamos Verde podcast. Y'all, they don't ask the questions that we would ask, but it is a great insight into who he is as a player and what his story is coming into MLS.
Yeah.
I know the questions aren't, maybe what you might expect from a SWOONTOWER interview, but it is...
Like, we still don't know if he has any dogs.
Right. But it is worth listening to and highly recommended. Definitely check that podcast out.
Yes. The last exciting piece of news we have for this week is that we got a spotlight for the first day of Women's History Month from the club, and it is featuring Bookwoman owner Susan Post. She's incredible. If you haven't been to Bookwoman, go. Yeah,
it's such a fun shop. It feels, when you walk in, it feels like you are in the perfect bookstore of your dreams. Like, there's just so many books everywhere. And it's so, I want to use the word cramped, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe that.
Full.
Like, yes.
Yeah. I just really love the club. Kind of, it feels like a branch out.
Yeah.
For a sports team, they do a lot with music, but I think that kind of entertainment goes hand in hand. And it was so nice to see Susan featured in a way like this, because Bookwoman is so like fundamental to the Austin community. And, my little book nerd heart really got a kick out of that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to this interview with Matt, you want to do an ad break?
Let's do it. SWOONTOWER Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. Check it out where you get your podcasts.
You can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, I got it. That's fvf.law.
Our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only advertises on this podcast because it's the home of the best team in the world, which is the most important thing in the world. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at www.mwcllc.com for more information. This Saturday night, we are back at home in Q2 with the Colorado Rapids in town. We're so excited to get back on the horse this weekend after a bumpy week two. And to give us a little bit of a local preview, we are so excited to have Matt Pollard, the managing editor of the BurgundyWave and co-host of Holding the High Line with us. You may have heard him before on our dad's show, SWOONTOWER, but he's here with us today to talk all things swoon. Matt, thanks so much for being here.
Stephanie, Mike, so good to be with you. And happy hump day. Glad to be here for some, as a podcaster for the original green team in Colorado, happy to be here for some Verde vibes.
Nice. Yeah, we only thought it was fitting to make sure that we include you on the show this week. You played Dallas last week. That game was insane. From a neutral standpoint, from a person with a rooting interest, how did that feel?
Yeah, it was really excellent. And then there were 2 minutes that were terrible. And then I was fully expecting it to be full crisis mode after that. This is obviously coming after crashing out of Conca Champions because the Rapids cannot win on the road against LAFC. And then it was going to be, oh God, what's the mood going to be in this game and what's that going to be like? And then ultimately the Rapids found a way to get a third goal. Oliver Larraz, my fellow, will show for the Gingers if we're doing video here. Nice red hair representation since we're coming up on St. Patrick's Day in a little bit, and Hoffa Navajo gets a goal. So I would argue, Mike, regardless of the ending or the frustration or the journey to be had on, I will take a 3-3 MLS After Dark draw over a boring 0-0 draw on the road to St. Louis. It was nice to see the Rapids offense wake up. We'll see if they can marry the doing the better stuff defensively and actually scoring the goals on the road this week at Q2.
Yeah. One of the things that I think jumps out to me, right, is the national media will immediately jump to, oh, this is MLS After Dark, right? This is heritage for our league. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be a little bit of a generality here. So I want to know, how does that national take on the Rapids compare to local perspectives, right? I know the conversation is typically, oh, Colorado, they're the rehab team. They take other people's broken players and see what they can do with them. But it seems like Chris Armas might be building something a little bit more nuanced there outside of Denver. What is that like for you?
Yeah, nobody outside of Chris Armas, who took the job, and Porrick Smith, who hired him, thought that this hiring was ultimately going to be good. Ask anybody who's a fan of New York Red Bulls about that time there. Big picture, Mike, I would just say, Colorado's a middling, is a relatively a middling club in terms of results. And they are in a smaller market in a Western Conference that's crowded with other big market, big money teams. And I think it's really easy for the national punditry to just say, oh, the Rapids, they don't win a whole lot. They'll have one surprising year every couple of years. They don't spend a whole lot of money. KSE doesn't care about the team. He cares about the Rams, and you could say he cares about Arsenal. I suppose he was happy this week. And he cares about the Nuggets and the Avalanche. So it's really easy to just say the Rapids might make the playoffs, but they'll probably miss it. And you will both are no stranger to a head coach or a player of your club, printing out the, MLSsoccer.com preview with all the pundits and basically the one guy who has a connection with you. In the case for the Rapids, it's Marcelo Balboa. Will never predict the Rapids worse than the last playoff spot as well. And everybody else has them 12th to 13th. I think the rehab of the Rapids that happened last year, I think, was a better version of what we saw in 2021, in that they got some guys back from Europe who had some U.S. national team experience, who has a point to prove, who, regardless of what didn't go well for Georgi Mihailovic at AZ or Reggie Cannon at Boa Vista when he wasn't getting paid, or played for that matter, is that they were guys who were proven in MLS. And you've got Chris Armas, who I think brought back the positive vibes after Robin Fraser, who is a really good head coach, but a little monotone, a little bit redundant. and it made the energy a little bit better. He brought in some fun tactics. As I mentioned earlier, the Rapids score a lot. They also concede a lot. And so watching a 3-3 draw for a team that barely makes the playoffs is way more fun than watching a 0-0 draw for a team that ultimately will miss the playoffs. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on tactically. Georgi Mihailovic could have won or could have gotten votes for MVP when he was with Montreal. He's really good. For me, Cole Bassett should have been best 11 last year. So the Rapids have a lot of good stuff going on. The fact that we're in the time zone everybody forgets exists alongside Real Salt Lake is kind of hard to forget sometimes, or hard to remember, and that makes it difficult for people to pay attention until the Rapids are barnstorming the league with the second smallest budget and are fourth in the Western Conference after winning the Rocky Mountain Cup. And if that just means the Rapids are sitting under the radar in time for them to make the playoffs and maybe actually win a playoff game, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fair. What can you tell us about the play style in Colorado? You mentioned that it's a high scoring offense, but also a high conceding defense. Tell us a little bit more about Chris Armas's system, or what we might expect from a standard 2025 Colorado team.
Yes. So the Rapids functionally like to do really two things. They like to be on the front foot possession-wise, playing up the middle through, we mentioned midfielder Cole Bassett, who was in the double pivot last year in the 4-2-3-1. He was in the 2 alongside fellow homegrown midfielder Oliver Larraz, the ginger who I mentioned earlier. The two have known each other since they were 14. They were playing in the academy for years, so they have a really good understanding. So they like to build that when they're in possession. That is normally what they do more so at home than on the road. So this is a road game against Austin. So I would say they'll probably want to do possession stuff like 35% of the time, the more mid-block pressy stuff 65% of the time. Up top, they've got Rafael Navarro, who's the striker. He came from Brazil. He was the second highest transfer fee in Colorado Rapids history this past summer. And he is capable on his own of pressing a center back, winning the ball, running at goal, and then scoring 1v1 with the goalkeeper. If there's any player on the Rapids who single-handedly can create a goal out of nothing with no other help around him, he's able to do that. They also have Cole Bassett, who will press a little bit. They've got winger Kevin Cabral, the Frenchman formerly from LA Galaxy. He has scored against Austin FC. He'll do that as well. And so the Rapids, like we saw last Saturday against FC Dallas, did a lot of possession, but when they didn't have the ball, they tried to make life difficult for Lucho Costa. That worked for about 88 minutes, and it didn't work for the 2 minutes in which Dallas scored 2 goals. So there's plenty of film work for the Rapids to work on this week, but they are high energy. They're an attacking team. They want to press to get the ball in advantageous situations to then go at goal. And when the opponent is willing to sit back, they are willing to throw numbers forward, be reckless abandon, and put numbers into the box to try and score goals. Midfielder Georgi Mihailovic is going to do stuff as the number 10. The wingers are going to do stuff. The fullbacks are going to try to attack. And if that means they've only got 3 guys going back on a counterattack, then that's a risk that they are willing to make.
I'm really excited to see how this plays out this weekend, because I would have said last year that Austin was much more willing to sit back. And I'm still very new to knowing what I'm watching, but just from what I've seen this year, we're the ball is going forward. If we're putting it in words, we can all understand the ball is going forward and not going backwards, which is beautiful. I think there was a stat from the opening game that Brad Stuver had 20% of the average passes that he had last season. He just didn't have to touch the ball, and it was beautiful. So I'm really interested to see if this harder attacking style from Austin pushing up against the Rapids is what's going to happen from that. So how are we going to win?
This game, when we've seen teams do that, Stephanie, it's the soccer equivalent of a car crash. So this is going to be...
It's what it feels like. That's
yes.
in my mind, I keep doing this, but that's not good audio. And I didn't have the words for it, but it feels like it's just this explosion waiting to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's how it felt as a neutral watching Colorado and FC Dallas last week. So, it should be an exciting game. What do you think are some of the keys to success for Colorado against Austin this weekend?
Well, I think there's certainly there's a revenge aspect for the Colorado Rapids, who obviously had that disastrous, another crazy MLS After Dark game on decision day. Georgi Mihailovic, who we mentioned earlier, he rolled his ankle and then was limited in terms of the playoff game, and the Rapids came in with a chance to go into the top four, and they ended up going down seeding wise. We have seen when the Rapids have a revenge energy, or when there's somebody that they feel like got something on them, they do a really, really good job of responding to that. So losing against LAFC at the end of the regular season and in CONCACAF Leagues Cup last year, and then winning the first leg, didn't handle that super great in the second leg. We're not going to talk about that. And then they've also done that well against Real Salt Lake. I don't know that, I guess they didn't do that against Austin because they won the home game and then lost the away leg on there. But so I think the Rapids will come into Q2 Stadium on Saturday with a bad taste in their mouth and a bad memory. And generally speaking, Georgi Mihailovic and Cole Bassett are really, really good when they are approaching a game with revenge energy. To your point, Mike, I thought that the Rapids did a really good job given the way that their season started. CCL game in, bitter cold weather. Officially it was 6 degrees Fahrenheit. I saw that it was 0 degrees. I was freezing up in the press box trying to cover that game, and they found a way to get a result. And then it was tough game against St. Louis, tough game against LAFC in the second leg, and they did a really good job setting up defensively for that. And then it was, okay, we went 2 whole games without getting a shot on goal. We need to score goals against Dallas, and then maybe over-indexed on the attacking component. I imagine with this being a road game that Colorado won't be more deferential or won't try to win the game, but definitely they are open to letting Austin come forward and attack them, and then press them in pressing trigger situations that they think are advantageous for them. That could be situational. That could be based on a player that they want to target. If there's somebody who's bad on possession, feel free to let me know, and then I'll text that to Chris Armas so that he's aware of that. Or it could be based on the formation of what Austin is trying to do as well. So all of that to say that I think Colorado will come out a little bit in more of a defensive posture than they did against Dallas. But when the opportunity is right, they're going to set a trap, and then they're going to absolutely go it. Austin, Chris Armas will be setting them up to try and get a win in this game. I think a 0-0 draw was a fair result in the opening MLS match against St. Louis, and one that they were probably happy with. They are going to go there and try and win the game, and that could be 2-1. It could be 3-3. It could be, who knows?
Cool. Yeah, and if the team is sitting back a little bit more this weekend, that sounds to me like maybe some of these new defensive incoming transfers for Colorado in the offseason may play a part in that. What can you tell us about Ian Murphy and Chidozie Awaziem as they've integrated into the Rapids backline?
They've both been excellent. I think Cheeto in 4 or 5 games that he's now played for the Rapids has been absolutely fantastic. There were a lot of questions about this defense, given the way that the season ended, given how many goals that they conceded. Moise Bombito obviously was fantastic, and the Rapids sold him for over $7 million to go play in France. And Wallace Abubakar was fine. He's a serviceable level center back, but he's now been an unused substitute in 2 straight games for FC Dallas. He was almost going to sub in. If there was one more stoppage in that game against Dallas, his first actual appearance for Dallas would have been back in Colorado. But there was a question of what the Rapids were doing at center back. And I thought they did some really, really good business in getting not just 2 good center backs, but 2 good center backs who had played together previously at their last team to then come in and be a really good center back partnership. So that was a great 2-for-1 deal. Cheeto has been really, really good, I think, with the physicality aspects of the game, running down loose balls when he's going against smaller, faster players who maybe could easily bump into him and earn a foul against an MLS referee. He's been decent in possession, not particularly great, and he's been a good leader of the back line as well. Ian Murphy, I would say, is the better possession center back. But to that point, Mike, about how the Rapids still want to be an aggressive team and are open to leaving numbers open at the back to where their defenders have to make plays, for the most part, they have made plays. Cheeto had to get subbed out, and that led to 2 goals, or 2 goals happened later against FC Dallas, but they had a clean sheet. They almost had 2 clean sheets against LAFC, only gave up 2 goals over 180 minutes. That's really hard to do against Denis Bouanga and Olivier Giroud and everything that LAFC has going forward. And I thought both of them, along with goalkeeper Zach Steffen as well, were excellent against St. Louis. So individual talent-wise has certainly upgraded there. You combine that with Captain Keegan Rosenberry at the fullback position, who's really experienced, and then also Reggie Cannon, who we talked about, who's playing a little out of position situation at the right back position right now. The Rapids have 4 really good defenders who, if you ask them to make throughout the 90 minutes, all 4 of them will make one really good 1v1 play that prevents a good scoring chance, and Zach Steffen will make a big save that keeps the team in the game.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Cheeto had to come out in the Dallas match. Not super normal to see a center back come off the field unless there's an injury concern. Yeah. Ourselves dealing with this right now with Julio Cascante, our ball-playing center back. What, if anything, have you heard about his status for Saturday?
Yeah, so Chris Armas described it as groin tightness, and he said that it was mostly a precautionary injury. And he's been training regularly, so I wouldn't expect him to be super affected. If there is a change there, Mike, Andreas Maxu, who at times was the captain for the Colorado Rapids last year, he's also played at center back, and he's been excellent for the Rapids, albeit a little bit quieter. And so he was dealing with, there was a really bad cold spell that the Rapids had going into for that CONCA Champions, the CONCACAF Cold Cup that the Rapids played in, and they had a bunch of muscle and soft tissue injuries. Connor Ronan and Andreas Maxu both went down within 3 or 4 days of each other. Ronan came back and he was a substitute on Saturday. I thought he was excellent coming on for Ollie Laraz. Maxu, I presume, is close, if not already available. And then they've also got striker Darren Yapi available. So there's an obvious substitute in there coming in. We'll see what happens. I don't think it'll be anything tactical. I think if Cheeto's good to go, I think he will start and he'll probably play 90 minutes. If Maxu does come on, that will be the Rapids probably trying to protect things. We saw Chris Armas abandoned the 4-2-3-1 last year against LA Galaxy, just with everything that Galaxy were doing on the wing with Peck and Paintstill and Puig. And so they went to a 3-4-3 and stymied them really well. So if the Rapids are absolutely getting owned on the wings in the final 20 minutes of the game on Saturday, but they're protecting a result, expect Maxu, if he's available on the bench, to come on and them to go to a 3-back, and then just let Reggie Cannon and Keegan Rosenberry go 1v1 with the wingers without having to worry about space in behind. But we're a long ways away from that being the situation.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to switch to the general vibes around the Rapids this season. I know that last season wasn't incredible for y'all. Same. How are the fans feeling? What's the general temperature around the team? Is there kind of a renewed hope? It feels like everyone in 2025 is feeling like this is our year. Finally, this is for us. So is that the same with the temperature on the Rapids?
It's funny you mentioned that, Stephanie. So my girlfriend is actually a season ticket holder, and you've probably seen this meme of the triangle that's I get my hopes up again, I get disappointed, I start to believe again. And so she hasn't started it this year, but last year it was every single week after every single game, she sent me another one of those with where she was on the triangle. And for the most part, we were going around. So I would say Rapids fans were probably disappointed to lose out in CONCA Champions to LAFC. I don't think that was surprising given how good LAFC are and given what the draw was and the history of the Rapids being absolutely terrible at BMO Stadium. I think they were encouraged by the fact that it was 2-2 on aggregate and they went down on away goals, and they had a real good chance to get a result in that game. I do think that it's a mixed bag, because then you combine that with a bad performance but a good result in a draw at St. Louis that I think you'll probably take given the circumstances, and then what was about to be potentially a blowout win against FC Dallas, who Rapids fans do not like, and then that ended up being in a 3-3 draw. So I think I'm definitely a level-headed person of let's get at least 5, preferably 7 to 10 games into the season before I start to draw conclusions about the data set there. The Rapids had an absolute gauntlet last year to start the season. They had RSL third game of the season. They were home to Nashville. That was a 1-1 draw in which their one goal was an own goal. They had to go play Messi in Inter Miami. They found a way to get a 2-2 draw on that. I don't think we have enough information. I think every single game so far, the mood of the fan base has kind of been based on what was the result. CONCA Champions, great. We won the game. Let's try and advance in the second leg. Draw to St. Louis, and we'll feel okay if we advance on Tuesday. Oh, we don't advance on Tuesday? Well, okay, we have to beat Dallas. Well, okay, we finally scored a bunch of goals. How do we feel? So I fully expect it will be panic mode, or at least measured concern, if the Rapids do not get a result against Austin. And if it's an ugly performance but a 1-0 win, then it's up the effing pids. So typical, I'm sure the Austin fan base will also be extremely measured and patient and reasonable in their instant reactions after full
you've
time
been
on
here.
Saturday.
Yeah, super normal. Yeah. I think we've seen that a little bit this year as well with us. Match day one, we beat Sporting Kansas City 1-0 on a last minute goal. Oh, we're the best team in the world. Match day two, losing.
You can't say that.
Losing away, 1-0 on a last minute goal. Oh, we're the best team in the world. So I think no matter what happens against against Colorado on Saturday, one thing will be certain, and that's Austin is the best team in the world.
We are so back, says the guy who said it's over 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
4 games into the season.
Right. Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite parts about early MLS is everything is it's obvious now, right? Every team is either the worst or best depending on what happened last week. And
Yes.
that will be true for the next 4 weeks before we start to understand kind of where everybody's at.
Yep.
If you had to pick one player on the team for our fans to kind of clue into a little bit, either from a personality standpoint, an on-field performance standpoint, who is this is the guy for the Rapids that a casual should be watching?
I think the easy one to say is Georgi Mihailovic. He's mostly doing attacking number 10 stuff. Chris Armas has kind of tinkered with the formation because of some last-second trades that the Rapids got before the start of the season. So I mentioned last year that they played mostly the 4-2-3-1, and Georgie would have been in the middle in the number 10 role, kind of doing Sebastian Driussi things for the most part. And now he's still doing that for the most part, but it's in different parts of the field as well. I would say he's a weird vibe in that he's got some Jack Grealish or some Cole Palmer energy in him for those who know the Premier League, where he's got kind of a dumb haircut that he's rocking, but maybe semi-ironically. And if you watch any of his press availability, he has no poker face when it comes to him clearly having an intrusive thought and then thinking about whether or not to say it out loud. So I'll give an example. I was a little bit of a meme in the MLS home opener last Saturday. The Rapids were doing a retro ski night. Our mascot, Rapid Man, was wearing a full, tipsy elf, neon 80s style ski suit as well. I realize I'm talking to people from Austin, so either you've gone skiing in Colorado on Texas week or you've never seen snow before. So there's a component to this fashion that maybe you don't understand. Austin FC gear with all the neon green would absolutely slap on the mountain. So I'm wearing a snow ski sweater as well. The title of the mountain, I'm actually wearing the hat for them. So it's Arapahoe Basin. Everybody knows it as a basin, but then so you read it as a basin, as in not specified rather than a standing for something. So Georgie's standing there waiting for media development. He's like, hey, Matt, nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Georgie. I like your sweater. Thanks. What is a basin? And then so I start to explain to him what Arapahoe Basin is. And then we get ready finally to go. And he's like, Matt, I don't care. That's just who Georgie is. So he's an absolute mean. Granted, that doesn't necessarily come out on who he is on the field. If we're going for more vibesy guys who have a good sense of fashion as well, Cole Bassett, if you want to check him out on his Instagram, or what does he wear on the walk from the car into the facility, he wears these absolutely ridiculous large sweaters or button down dress shirts, whatever, that are at least 2 sizes too big. He does not wear them ironically. He thinks they look good and are very, very funny as well. And then, Omir Fernandez, the winger for the Rapids, who will probably be a bench substitute. He got some fun highlights, and he'll normally wear some weird, funky glasses as well. He's a vibe, and that comes out in his playing style as well. He's definitely an energy, and he's a happy guy, a happy winger, if you will. So I would say those are kind of the fun ones as well. We already talked about Cheeto Awaziem, who has super fun hair, but maybe isn't a vibe in terms of his personality because he's a center back, and Julio Cascante, I have to be very serious and very angry all the time, and I have to yell at my midfielder when they turn the ball over. That's Cheeto.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. I am personally so glad to be rid of Lawless Abubakar in Colorado. The fact that he has gone to Frisco is perfect, and I cannot wait for that match. But hopefully we do 3 on them as well.
Why do you guys hate Lawless? What's the thing about him?
Is just he always brought a little bit more fight than maybe was necessary to an Austin match.
That's fair.
And so from the fan base, every time we would see him in the starting lineup, we'd be like, what's he trying to pull today?
We joke that he's definitely a meat truck, and he's definitely a chaos merchant. And he is, I feel like, surprisingly, he's more of a chaos merchant on road games than he is in home games.
Yeah, he's very much a guy you would love on your own team, guy you hate on everyone else's team.
Yes, 100% agree.
So glad he's gone.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to, I hope it's more of a car crash than maybe it sounds like you're anticipating, but that sounds exciting to me in a not like...
Steph loves car crashes.
Way. Yeah,
News
no, don't quote me. I hope it's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights. People can go to BurgundyWave.com. They can find Holding the High Line on Spotify and Apple and all of those other places. Anywhere else that people can find and follow your work?
So I'm mostly on Blue Sky, more so than the other app right now. So by Matt Pollard, Pollard on my last name. Very conspicuous personality wise, being a ginger certainly. And yeah, it's been fun. And I will say as well, Stephanie, I think there was a lot of discourse amongst fan bases and media members of MLS original teams about how to feel about Austin, given the way Austin came into the league and the potential connection with Anthony Precourt and what that looked like. I have frustrations about a lot of ownership groups, including but not limited to Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. And so my feelings about Austin from that standpoint, I think went through to that first game against Columbus. I'm over it. Are Columbus Crew fans over it? Probably not. But I mean, on the whole, you guys are a way more fun city in Texas to go to for an away game as well. The vibes and the energy is good. And I mean, for the most part, we've seen instances where I think fan bases or new MLS expansion teams come in and their fan bases kind of come in and beat their chest, and Colorado is one of the common teams for national media and fans outside of the market to kind of punch down on. And for the most part, Austin fans have been nice to the tailgate when we've seen them as well. They've been a fun vibe. They have a cool energy. As a fellow Matthew, I can't hate on Matthew McConaughey with his leisure green suit, for lack of a better word, as well. So I've got no beef with Austin FC outside of the 90 minutes. In which case, I hope you guys have fun watching the car crash, and then Cheeto Wazliam scores in the 90th minute to take over the mantle of what Lal Abubakar was clearly doing to troll all of you.
Wow. I was about to say how much we love Den Verde, Matt. Never mind. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you again to Matthew from Holding the High Line and BurgundyWave.com. Definitely check out the stuff on those sites and listen to their review of the show, of the match after we have won on Saturday.
Maybe they'll put up a review of our show too.
Ooh, wouldn't that be fun?
That would be nice. But yeah, thank you, Matt, for coming on. It was a really great learning experience for me. I learned a lot, and I'm really excited to know what more to look forward to on Saturday.
Yeah, do you think Cole Bassett is going to wear one of those big shirts to Austin?
No, because they don't wear they wear their uniforms.
Yeah, but what if his travel uniform is also gigantic?
That would be awesome. But I will say I am following the Colorado Rapids for their fashion. No, just keeping an eye out. Following without hitting follow.
Yeah.
Buying.
Snooping.
All right, it's time for the man of my jersey this week. I am saying this with love and optimism. The man of my jersey this week is Julio Cascante. And I am wishing him very, very fast recovery because I love him and we want him back on the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, 2 to 4 weeks can't come soon enough.
Exactly. Thank you all for listening.
Yes. And don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, give us 5 stars. If you are listening on a weird platform, also review us on that weird platform. I don't know what that weird platform might be. But that's where my head's at right now is what if you found us on Stitcher? Review us on Stitcher.
Yeah, do that.
You can also go to patreon.com/moontowersoccer to get in on those Patreon rewards, those sweet, sweet rewards.
Sweet, sweet socks.
So thank you so much. We love you.
We love you. Bye.
I will marry Chewy's.
Yeah.
Because they love Chew Boom Boom sauce.